Hey everybody, and welcome back to the next part in my Creating a Great Tone series. I recently, a little while ago, did an episode in this series concerning the use of using expression pedals in a creative way. And I focused on using one of my mission engineering expression pedals, which they specifically work in partnership with line 6, as you can see it says right there, line 6. These expression pedals work pretty much flawlessly with line 6 products, in this case for me the Helix in particular. And the first video was kind of talking about, using this in conjunction with the onboard expression pedal, if we're playing a Helix. I mean, some products are going to have no built-in expression pedal, in which case this is going to be quite handy. But in the case of our Helix, maybe we already are using our expression pedal on board for our volume pedal or for a wah, and we want to do some more creative things. Well, the first video dealt with using one of these. Well, this video is going to be centered around using two of these, okay? And you'll notice the different colors. We'll talk about that in a second. But having two of these is one interesting point that's related to the Helix itself. When we do plug two expression pedals in, that reduces our onboard expression pedal to only one use. It no longer functions as a dual with the toe switch to switch between them. So it does lose that functionality, but it does bring up some other creative possibilities. So this video is going to be more about what we can do with two external expression pedals. Now, let's talk a little bit about the color. First of all, like I mentioned in the first video, these pedals are built like tanks. They're really wonderful. The fine folks at Mission have done an amazing job at making them. This one is really interesting. Finish on it. It's kind of got like a faux metal finish, which is a real cool paint job. Now, you might say, the OCD types like myself sometimes would look down at their pedal board and go, wait, they're not matching. That's driving me crazy. But there's a really interesting and maybe not so obvious benefit to this in that if we have two different functions kind of assigned to each, it gives us a very easy way to keep track of which does which. Maybe we have this, for very simple terms, as our volume control volume pedal, and this is our wah pedal. Well, we're going to be able to keep track of that mentally because of the difference in look with them without having to label them. So that's one maybe not so obvious thing. The other thing is, for the budget conscious in mind, to keep an eye on Mission's website, because a lot of times they do B stocks on this that I think save somewhere, don't quote me, but in the $30-ish range. And a lot of times they're perfectly functioning pedals. They may just have maybe a little blemish in the paint or something very subtle that we may not even notice. And let's be honest, after using these on stage and they're kind of designed to have our feet all over them and get kind of banged around, maybe we're going to put our own blemishes on it. But depending on how careful we are, I know I've always do that when I'm out too, so as much as I try not to. So anyways, a couple kind of less obvious and interesting ideas with the two. So let's dive in. I'm going to get these hooked back up and let's dive over to HXN. And I want to give a few samples of ideas I've been using recently with two expression pedals in this format that they're pretty interesting and a lot of fun, and it might even spark some more ideas for you. Be right back. All right, so I've got my guitar in hand. I've got my expression pedals hopefully in a position where I can access them without turning away from the camera too much, but let's see. Let's go over to HX Edit. What I've done here, a little different than the first expression pedal video I did, was I've already pre-dialed everything, and I didn't think you guys needed to sit and watch me do every little move. I will show you how the assignments are made, but also please go back and watch the first expression pedal video, because it goes in more in depth into how I was able to assign it with HX Edit. One point I want to make too is all the assignments are possible on our Helix floor pedal, okay? We simply go to the parameter that we want to assign on the Helix floor, or the Helix LT itself, right? And we press and hold that parameter's knob, okay, until the screen changes. Not press slow, a short press, but a long press. And then what you'll see up on the screen is where we have our choice of what to assign to that parameter. And we can go through and assign to snapshots, or we can go through and assign to expression pedal 1, 2, or 3, okay? So that would be pertinent to this. So we can do it from our floor as well. And that was a question I had after the first video. So I'm going to be dealing with HX edit as we see. So in this first, you'll see over here I have expression times 2, expression times 2, expression times 2. These are all different patches slightly. I kind of mentally know what's going on here, I hope. I remember. I dialed them in a bit ago. I'm also, side note, monitoring all of these today through my Mission Engineering Gemini studio, which I'm really enjoying and loving a lot. Sounds great. It's a great FRFR. I figured I would keep it all mission related products today. So, okay, so what I have here is I dialed in a patch using placator dirty into, a CAD. This is not really about getting the tone. This is more about how we're going to use the expression pedal to do some fun and interesting things. So let's actually dive over. As you can see, there's some brackets and some of the parameters are in white. So what I've done with this, if we go over to our bypass controller assign page, as you can see, I've assigned some parameter control with the expression pedals to the placator's dirty channel volume, drive, and master. I've also gone to expression pedal 3 and gone to my reverbs, decay and mix, and my transistor tape or delay mix. So let's talk first about our expression pedal 2. If you notice as I move it, I have it set up in my heel position to have the drive on 1, the channel volume on 8, and the master on 2.5, okay? As I roll it forward to the toe position, those all morph into their toe settings. The drive on 7, the channel volume on 5, and the master on 7. So you might say, well, what is the purpose of this? Well, what I've done here is I've created a situation where, without using snapshots, I can go from a relatively clean tone, or maybe a slight edge of breakup tone, like this. Still has a bit of breakup. I could roll my guitar volume back to clean that up further. Right? And then if I go fully toe position, I get a more all-out distorted sound, okay? So again, and I can do, like I explained in the first video, this is more like a dimmer switch, right? I can do both of those extremes and everything in between. So let's listen to that as I kind of morph through it. There's full heel position, and I'll start moving. You'll see the parameters change on the screen. Okay, so you saw how even within one solo, I could have all these tones and just morph between them and get a very nice smooth transition between a distorted tone to maybe something cleaner edge of breakup tone. So how I did this again, if we go back, this has all been covered in the first video, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. But basically I went to the channel volume, and meaning, remember the minimum channel volume and the maximum channel volume, the minimum and maximum settings here. The minimum is always going to be what that parameter is set to in the heel position. And the maximum is always what that's going to be set to in the toe position. Okay, so when I'm on the heel, my channel volume, which I am right now, is going to be on 8. As I move to the toe, it's going to move to 5, as is set here. For my drive, I'm doing the opposite. Because at the minimum position, I'm on 1. I want less drive, but I want more channel volume to keep the volume consistent, right? In my toe position, I'm going to maximum at 7. And then the master, as well, is doing the same sort of thing. Minimum is a 2.5, and max master is 7 in the toe position, okay? And we can see how that was working. Now, that's very similar to something I did in the first video. But I also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, had effects tied to it so that when I went to more drive, I brought in more delay. Maybe some subtle EQ changes, which are all possible as well. But with the 2 expression pedals now, I have the ability to maybe separate that from the effects. Control just my drive amount with 1 expression pedal. And you might say, well, what am I doing with the second expression pedal? Well, I did something interesting, which gives another idea of morphing between different effects, okay? Instead of just turning effects on and off. One thing I find in a lot of patches I've dealt with that people have sent me before is a lot of people play maybe very wet, right? They have a lot of reverb on a tone and maybe a lot of delay at the same time. Well, what that ends up doing is it ends up kind of pulling our tone back in the mix, right? Maybe washing it out a bit, maybe not really helping it to cut and not be quite as defined, right? So what if we had a situation where maybe we wanted the ability to go between having maybe a little bit more lush reverb, but when our delays come in, maybe to have the reverb pulled back and the delay to take over the sort of ambient effect, right? So maybe on our clean tones, we want a real nice ambient reverb, but we don't want that on our lead tones because they're not cutting as much, but we do want a bit of delay on our lead, if that makes sense, okay? Well, what I've done here with my second expression pedal, which is actually labeled expression pedal 3 here, is I have gone to the transistor tape and have it at the heel position to be at 0 and the toe position to be at 30%, okay, for delay. Now at the same time as that's happening, I have the reverbs mix when the delay in the heel position is at 0, so there's no delay coming out. I have the reverbs mix, which is a Ganymede reverb, at 30%, okay, and I have the maximum position when we go to the toe, where the delay is introduced on full, I have that reverb pulled back to 10%. So now we can have the ability to have a nice lush reverb when we want it in the heel position with no delay. And then as we kind of morph through with this so-called, dimmer switch at our foot, we get to the maximum position where we're going to have a nice delay with very subtle reverb. So hopefully our sound would never get washed out, right? I also set the expression pedal 3 decay to go in that max position where we want more delay and less reverb for the decay to come down to 4, but in the heel position where we want the more reverb to be on 6. Now these are sample settings. I didn't really spend a lot of time dialing this, and I'm not trying to profess that these are amazing, the perfect amounts of reverb or a great, amazing tone. I just did this quick as an example. You would want to adjust these to whatever your personal taste would be. Okay, so what does that sound like? Well, let's go to our sort of cleanish setting that we just set up with our expression pedal 2. And we'll go over to our delay here. And with what you'll notice now is with expression pedal 3, which is my sort of faux metal look to it, which I can, sort of like I mentioned before, I can keep track of what each pedal is doing because they look different, which is a really cool feature. So if you notice, I'm in the heel position. So what's happening is the mix of the delay is on 0, the reverb is on 30%, and 6 decay. So you'll notice as I move those, they go to the settings that I had them set it over here in bypass control, assign tab, okay? So what does this sound like? Well, here we go with the larger reverb sound with no delay. Now, maybe that's more delay or reverb than you want, right? But I've just kind of exaggerated a bit for effect here. Now, as I move to the toe position, what you'll notice is my tone didn't lose any definition. There's still a dab of reverb on it, but now the delay takes over and gives us our ambient. also go right in between the two. Okay, what a really useful thing, something I've been enjoying, and we could use that to morph between so many different types of effects. You want to morph from a chorus into a flanger, or, you know, sky's the limit, and it's really beyond my ability, and I could probably do 100 of these videos with so many examples and never get to everything that's even possible. It's pretty crazy when you start thinking about it. So I found that pretty cool. So it gave us the ability now with these two expression pedals to be able to go between a nice reverb sound with slight edge of breakup to a more distorted tone with these dimmer switches, right? That's with lots of reverb, delayed. And more definition because the reverb's not washing the tone out. Delay's gone, tons of reverb, right? Even in a solo, we can be playing with the reverb, and then at the end of a phrase, just slap in the delay, right? And take it back out again. Right? Almost like our own built-in ducking delay. So really neat stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy that idea. All right, well, idea number 2 is something else, though, altogether. If you notice, on my amp, I still have expression pedal 2 set up to control my drive settings, okay? Identical to what I was just showing you a few moments ago. Now, what I did do here, though, is I thought, well, what else could we use a second expression pedal? We could use it to give us a different EQ contour that we could pick and choose from whenever we need it, right? Maybe we want a little bit of a boost for a solo, but instead of just going to the traditional boost type of idea, how about we try to contour the EQ? Well, what I used for that is this little split crossover technique that I really like and use in a lot of my videos, where I have the split crossover set at 650 hertz. So this gain block here is set to boost all frequencies above 650 hertz, boost or cut, I mean, whatever you want for your situation. And this one is designed to boost or cut all the frequencies below. I do have a video on that. I'm not going to go too in depth about that. You guys can go watch that. I could post a link if anybody's interested. So what I thought here is, what if we wanted sort of 2 different EQ or tone profiles? I thought this is a really nice way of doing that. So if we go over to bypass controller, assign again, what we'll see is on the frequencies above 650 hertz, I have it set that in the minimum heel position, it's only boosting those frequencies by 1 dB. And on the toe position, it's boosting by 4, so a little more brightness. And at the same time, on the frequencies below 650 hertz, in the minimum position, I have it with minus 2 dB on all those frequencies, and in the max position, minus 4.5, right? So you're going to see it's going to get considerably brighter in the toe position and considerably darker in the heel position. Now you might say, well, why? Well, here's an example. Let's say that I'm dialed in with this sort of brighter setting, and you can sort of see as I use this expression pedal, those change. And I'm on my bridge position, let's say, with sort of the cleaner tone. You might say, well, that sounds a little bit thin, right? It's not that nice. And then I might go to my neck position, right? Yeah, maybe that's a little too fat. I'm not saying this is, but I'm just saying, you know, that's the problems we have sometimes getting that balance between the different tones. So what if we did this? What if I was on my bridge position, I just had the ability to peel back the brightness like this? Here's the difference between the two. So heel position. and I'll morph up to toe position. Maybe that's too bright there. Well, we have the ability to pull it back. But now if I move to the neck position, maybe this darker heel position is too maybe woofy or muddy or dark, right? So I go to my toe position. And it helps it cut more now. You see, so depending on what pickup we're using, this can really help us to have a very quick way to morph between two sort of brightness and darkness settings, if that makes any sense. Very interesting stuff. So here it is on my brighter toe position with the neck pickup. Here it would be on the heel position. That might be what you want, right? But I think so you could change these things to whatever you need for your particular setting. But again, now if I'm on the bridge position and I'm in this bright setting, it might be way too bright, but I peel that back to the darker setting, and it might be just what we need. Same with for distorted sounds, right? Maybe here I used my other expression pedal to get more distortion back. So maybe we're set here on the darker side of things, which might work nicely for a rhythm tone. Right? Maybe our solo comes up and we want to have a little bit more cut. So instead of just boosting volume, we can brighten it up so it cuts more. That sounds like this. Here's the dark setting. Here's the brighter setting. I'll morph between the two. Watch as the parameters change. So it gives us a very interesting way to morph between a brighter setting or a darker setting. So I hope that's kind of an interesting one that maybe some folks can use. And I really hope that this just sparks your own ideas too, to get you thinking, right? And to make you realize, man, having a couple of these extra expression pedals really can be a handy thing, and it opens up so many doors. All right, so for my third preset here to do with this, an expression pedal use, is not so much designed around dual expression pedal. This is just a request I had after doing the first video. And somebody asked me about using it for a rotary style effect, right? And controlling it as maybe a real Hammond player would by controlling the speed of the rotary speaker, right? So there's a lot of settings on. I used the 122 rotary here, just for no other reason, that's what I called up. But there's a speed setting, so it's sort of an overall speed setting, fast or slow, and then there's individual adjustments for each of those. So if we're on the slow setting, we can adjust the speed with slow. If we're on the fast, we adjust with fast. I'm just using fast. I just want it to sort of come across here so you can hear it. Ramp time, that's an interesting one. As we change the speed, this ramp time is going to determine how quickly it kind of ramps up to that new speed. So if we set this slow, when we do a quick change, maybe from 0 to 10 on our fast speed, it's going to get to that 0 to 10 much more gradual, right? If we have it medium, it's going to be somewhere in between there. If we have it fast, it's going to kind of zoom up to that new speed. So I have it set for fast here, but again, whatever, that's going to be up to you to decide. I don't know if I had the mix at 100. I'll leave the mix at 100 for now. Okay, so what I've done is I've assigned my expression pedal 2 is still assigned to my clean or dirty setting, right? But what I've done here is I've assigned the fast speed to expression pedal 3, okay? And what that's going to allow me to do now is, as you see, move from 0 to 10. And again, we could change the extremes of that if we didn't want to go that extreme. So I could do something like, so you hear the rotary effect, right? see we have a little bit more expressive control over the rotary with those settings, right? And again, you'll notice with ramp speed, if I put it down and I make that extreme move, it's going to take longer to get up to its new setting. Watch. Kind of a neat effect, actually. On medium, we're going to have to decide how we want to dial that in. But there's the idea of how we can use it for even different effects maybe that aren't so obvious to us as guitar players who maybe wouldn't be used to the idea of playing through maybe like a Hammond type organ type of a situation through a Leslie speaker, right? What do you think, guys? I hope that was of some use to you. Again, I'm just throwing some hopefully cool, creative ideas out. Hopefully they're creative. Maybe they aren't. Maybe you guys have already thought of all these, and that's wonderful. Please share your ideas with me and with everybody else, leave them in the comments, because there's so many possibilities. It's really beyond the scope of any single video or even series of videos to cover every possibility. This is more just to spark the idea and get us thinking in those terms. Please go over to Mission Engineering too. Check them out. Really wonderful company, great group of people. I've gotten to know Paul over there over the past little while. He's a really super guy, very helpful, very kind individual, and they make really great products. And I've gotten to know him because I'm using their products, and I'm really happy with the company. So yeah, check them out. I'll put the website up on the screen. It's missionengineering.com. No. And they have these pedals just work wonderfully with the Helix right out of the box with no issues that I've come across. You know, a simple, normal 1/4 inch guitar cable, and you're done. You're all set and you're up and running in seconds. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope it's you find it useful. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please, if you did like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the video if you can. Really appreciate it. And I'll be back soon with some more content. And thanks for tuning in again. Ciao for now. We'll talk soon.